prayer. We don't want to hold you too long, but we have another segment, very important segment, to explain exactly what we are, who we are. The brother that I'm about to call before you is the brother who is directly responsible for pushing this movement forward, PLM, directly responsible for guiding us and helping us to deepen this struggle and to build institutions to better our people and better ourselves. So without further ado, I want to call this brother up. This is Brother Imhotep Aziz Fatihu.
Hotep family, but I'm gonna be brief because I know y'all been sitting there patiently. But the first thing I would like to do, I want to just acknowledge all the people who was responsible for making this night possible. One of the things that we don't do enough of is actually celebrate and commend one another. I know we get caught up in doing the work, but I wanted to make that known that we got to always acknowledge each other because it's not easy to do this work. Now get down to business. My reason for being up here is to talk about PLM, which is the Pan-African Liberation Movement. And why do we want to talk about that? We want to talk about it because we want people to understand exactly what it is, the direction that it's moving in, its focus, and its foundation. That's a PLM flag, Pan-African Solidarity. It's not a substitution for the flag that Marcus Garvey gave us. That's not a substitution for that. That flag still stands as it is. This flag sits under that flag. That flag there represents the Pan-African Liberation Movement, and we understand that through Pan-African Solidarity, we can bring forth Pan-African empowerment. We will never be empowered individually. It has to be a collective effort to empower us as a people. We're guided by what? We're guided by scientific Pan-Africanism, which is an ideological system. It's a system that seeks to look at all of the methodologies, perspectives, thought processes, political philosophies of pioneering Pan-Africanists and contemporary Pan-Africanists. We look at the best of all of that, and we seek to fuse their best together to create a system. This system that we define as being scientific Pan-Africanism is composed of 7 basic fundamental components. And Ruth spoke about one of those components. He spoke about the spirituality component. There's a military component, there's a historical component, a cultural component, political component, a social component. All these components have to be understood because each of these components together comprises this total system because it gives us a direction. It allows us to look at the world a certain way. It allows us to make analysis a certain way. For instance, within the Pan-African Liberation Movement, we analyze our situation starting from the position that the principal contradiction in our reality is racism. That's the principal contradiction. Not outruling those other contradictions that exist. We acknowledge that there's an economic contradiction through capitalism. We understand that. But that which is principal to our oppression and subjugation is racism. So our analysis has to commence there first. We can't get confused and think that our situation and our oppression is equal to someone else, because we are being oppressed through racism first and foremost. So that's what we got to be clear about. So that's the way how Pan-African Liberation Movement approaches this situation. So PLM is, first and foremost, is an African-centered organization that seeks the liberation for African people throughout the world, commencing where we are at. We understand that our locale is here in the United States of America, in Baltimore, Maryland. So we start there. We start doing organizing within the community to build our people, and one of the things that we place great emphasis on is studying. Because understanding that in order to move forward, in order to heal, in order to correct a problem, you have to understand what caused their problem. In order to heal what we define as being dilapidated communities, we gotta understand what caused that. That's right. When you walk around Baltimore City and you see patches of land and lots and things like that, you didn't see those patches of land and lots before 1980. That's crack cocaine. That's what that is. When you see houses and how they just coming through now in grazing communities and stuff like that, that's crack cocaine. That's what we're looking at right there. And how did the crack cocaine get into the community? You understand that right there? The CIA puts it in there. We understand that, so we gotta understand all these factors when we begin to look at our situation, because the only way we're gonna be able to heal is we gotta understand what caused it. And we can't be afraid to call out the cause. You cannot be afraid to call out and identify that which caused your pain and your suffering. And that's what we do. We call that out. Pan-African, African-centered, nationalistic. Through scientific Pan-Africanism, we understand that bound up in scientific Pan-Africanism is African-centeredness, naturally. And nationalism, naturally, is bound up in it. It's a part of its total construction. For one to say that he or she is practicing scientific Pan-Africanism, by right, he or she is practicing African-centeredness and nationalism. There is no distinction, there is no separation. Pan-Africans, we understand also that we're looking at a totality, we're looking at a whole. One of the basic characteristics of holism. We understand that our approach to life must be what? Humane. Looking at humanism. When we see our people, we see a great human dignity within all our people, regardless of where they may be at. The brother and the sister that's on crack cocaine that's beat down, that's still our brother and our sister. That's still our brother and our sister. We see that human being, regardless of the social situation that's weighing this person down. We see a human being. And we know that the human being is what? A divine being. That's what we understand. That's that holism that we talking about. That's that humanism we talking about. Another one of its characteristics is what? Revolutionary. Why is it revolutionary? Because it seeks the radical yet progressive transformation of the African world. And to do that, you gotta naturally confront that which is causing the African world destruction.
That's right.
They're logical ends of one another. We have to understand this, right? This is what PLM puts forth. PLM has a study class. It's open to the community. It's open to the public. The African Awareness and Critical Thinking Study class. We meet here what? Every Sunday from 6 to 9. What do we study? We study anything and everything that directly and indirectly impacts the African world. Listen to what I said. Indirectly and directly impacts our world. We must study it and examine it. Because we must become scientists. We must become what? Healers. You become a healer by understanding that which causes the ills. So study is a thing that cannot be neglected. Oftentimes through emotionalism, we feel that, I want to move, I want to do something, we need to do. Emotions move you that way. But we understand that we have to move, like Brother Diop pointed out in urban labor, we have what is known as planned work. That's a principle, that's a point. Planned work never commits a move without thinking it through. And you do not have a plan if you do not have a backup plan. Understand that. If you move and there's no backup plan, you do not have a plan. That's what we teach. That's what we understand. That's what this is about. This is how we're going to move forward. This is how we're going to progress. Understand urban labor. Urban labor is what? It translates righteously into revolutionary work. What do you mean by revolutionary work? We're talking about work that's going to transform lives. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about getting up close and personal to our people, not being afraid of them. That's what we're talking about. Find out where they are at. What are you confronted with? What are your ills? What's your circumstance? What's your situation? That's what we're talking about. And once we find that out, we actually assess that, then we huddle up as an organization. We figure out how can we meet that situation right there. That's how the community fund came about. Realized that we had a hard time getting people to the study class and keeping them around because everybody keep on saying they got economic problems. But I gotta pay this bill, I gotta pay this bill. So an economic fund came out of that, understanding, assessing that situation, and it birthed it. So now you have something to meet that need right there, that immediate need can be met. But we need more people to come around and to do this assessing process with us. We need many eyes looking at our situation. Because make no mistake about this, there's enough work for all of us to do when it comes to helping and saving us. There's enough work for all of us to do when it comes to saving and helping us. And the Brother Diop was correct. There is no such thing as individual progression without collective progression in the African world. There is no such thing. And he also was correct when you say you have I have a house, I have this, I have that. You have nothing because someone sacrificed for you to be in a position to acquire what you have. And it's selfishness on your part not to give respect to that individual. You didn't get anything by yourself. But you have bought into some type of individual philosophy that got your minds all messed up. So you believe you got that by yourself. Someone got their head busted. Someone got chased into exile. Some of them got murdered. Some had water hoses put on them, had the skin knocked off their bodies. So you can walk inside someone's company and knock on the door and say, can you give me a job? Someone died for that. So you can live in these counties. Someone died for you. and then all you can say is that I got this. You don't ever include your ancestors. You never include anyone into it. That's the twistedness about how we see reality birthed from our educational process within this society. That's why the brother, he drilled home with culture. Culture is the great imperative. Culture is that which secures your existence in the world. If you do not know your culture, you will practice someone else's culture. That's what it's about. You always practicing culture. Always. But your potential is maximized when you understand your culture. So when you practice someone else's culture, you're being culturally dominated. That's cultural aggression. That ultimately leads to your destruction. Destruction how, Brother Assis? Destruction in the sense that your thinking is incorrect in relation to your people. Your thinking is incorrect in relation to your people. Every people that exists is culturally motivated. And for them to say that they're not, they're lying to you. Sit back and watch every people, how they communicate, how they walk, how they dress. It's cultural. It's cultural. The cars they drive is cultural. The way they set their houses up is cultural. Culture is always at play. And people will convince you or attempt to convince you that your culture is irrelevant. It is never irrelevant. Never. It is the key. It's the determining factor in your survival. Culture is like an immune system. It's a survival mechanism. It equips you, it teaches, it shows you, it shapes and fashions you to function a particular way within a particular locality so you can maximize your human potential. The culture does that. The way in which you rear the child is cultural. As opposed to giving the child the breast or the bottle, it's cultural. As opposed to beating your child or not beating your child, it's cultural. As opposed to communicating to the child or yelling at the child, it's cultural. If you choose to put a costume on your child on October 31st, if you don't do that, it's cultural. If you celebrate Christmas, if you don't, it's cultural. If you practice cars, if you don't, it's cultural. You can never elude the presence of culture. Never. But the sad part about it is when you do not have yours, you have someone else's. And if you have someone else's, it will not maximize your human potential. It will not. So PLM most definitely is a cultural organization. First and foremost, PLM we study, we understand that. In addition to studying, when we study inside the study class, if you're a part of PLM, you got a whole new study list you got to study. And you got to study. And you're drilled on it. And you got to write, you do writings, and things of that nature. What are you understanding? What are you dissecting? What are you putting together? That's what this is about. Why? Because you have to be the best. That's why. There is no room for failure this go around. You have to be the best. And with that, I'd like to thank you for my brief moment coming before you to share what I said. Hopefully, I said something that can give you a better understanding about PLM. And hopefully, all of you, if you're able, you will begin to attend the study class and engage us in that dialogical process of developing ourselves. And with that, Hotep.
Hotep again, family. All right, we had to.